Hey, what's going on, everybody? So this is going to be a just a quick little episode here that'll probably get posted, on actual podcast stuff pretty quickly as well. Just a quick little episode here. Boom, it's working. Great. And I know nobody's going to be watching tonight because it's really late. Like it's almost midnight. It's 11:30. But this is usually I was writing. Um, so as some of you might know, I'm writing a movie, and I'm on my second draft, and I sent that out to some readers of mine who are reading it right now, and I'm waiting for their feedback to make any changes or anything like that to do a third draft. But while I'm waiting, I started to write like a book. I like to write movies more just because I feel like it goes faster, but I wanted to challenge myself, and I know next month is like writing month, or like there's some weird writing novel, challenge that happens every November. And so I figured, maybe I'd get a jump on it and start writing it and, work on something else while I'm waiting for the other projects to kind of be looked at, and finalize those. But, anyways, I digress. So, what I wanted to share with you guys is this question, which is asked. I don't know. It's asked every single year. Every single year it comes up, which is, should Christians celebrate Halloween? Um, and you, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, and it's a lot of times the people who are telling you you shouldn't are they're either like hardcore AGs, like they're hardcore charismatics, and so they're already kind of they're already um, what was it, leery, or they're already like honed in on like that everything is witchcraft. If it's not you reading the Bible, or if it's not you talking about Jesus, it's witchcraft. It's of the world. It's evil, and it's from Satan. That's kind of the charismatic way. And one of those things, one of the biggest things is Halloween, and it always comes around Halloween season, whether you should or shouldn't celebrate Halloween. And I've gone back and forth on this only because my family grew up. We loved Halloween, and we weren't Christians by any stretch of the imagination. We were that family that we believed in God, um, but we didn't really know if Christianity was the kind of thing. So we grew, like, we would ask my grandma all the time, Grandma, what religion are we? And she would tell us we were heathens. So um, Halloween was just a big. We loved Halloween, just like I think every family that came out of the 50s. Um, the 50s really pushed Halloween as a communal event that happened, and you would take your kids out trick or treating, and they would go and have fun, and and be dressed up as ghosts and goblins and witches and ghouls and monsters and things like that. Pirates and clowns and all that jazz, and they would go out and they would just have fun on Halloween, and that's kind of the tradition that I grew up in. It wasn't some pagan, Satan worshiping thing, and I do feel as though, um, as time has progressed, that Halloween has gotten more gruesome. I do feel that. And so it does feel a little bit more like nowadays, especially, that Halloween maybe has become a little bit more evil, but I I don't think that you throw. It's kind of that old adage, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because you have people that do gruesome things for Halloween, and they want to scare the crap out of you all the time, because that's the traditions that they kind of grew up on, is haunted houses and being scared all the time, and horror movies. And so that's the way that they treat Halloween, is they, think of Halloween as more of this celebration of horror movies and horror as a genre, you know, um, where Halloween is more of like this celebration of death, you know. So I can see where horror kind of fits, kind of, hand in hand or hand in glove, or however you want to say it, but uh, I see where that comes from. But my sister, we were talking about this a while back. My sister wanted to get this tattoo. I don't know if she ever got a tattoo, but of Memento Mori, and I had never heard it before. And I know my sister gets really angry at me because sometimes I just take things that she does and I adopt them for myself. And so I really, when she told me about Memento Mori and I looked it up a little bit, she told me what it meant, and but I looked into it a little bit deeper and found out it was a very Christian. It became a very Christian mantra, which is just memento mori, remember death, remember that you are going to die, and and it just it brought because it was at a time, you know, she told me this at a time when I was like questioning, should Christians really celebrate Halloween? Because it's this celebration of death, and death isn't a part of the plan, really. In Christian, in the Christian, what I feel like the Bible teaches is death really isn't part of the plan because the Bible talks about how death is the last enemy that will be defeated. But the mindset of memento mori is that you remember death, you remember that you're going to die for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is that you remember that you need to do the best that you can on earth while you have the time, right? So do the best you can on earth before you die, because you will die. There's this cool clip of Gary Vee, and this girl runs up to his, if you don't know who Gary Vee is, Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a big social media guru, marketing guru kind of person, and he has a fairly large fan base. But a girl runs up to his limo and she knocks on his window and he rolls it down and he's talking to her. He's such a cool guy like that. But he's talking to her and she asks him, what's one thing, that you would say, or what's one piece of advice, that you would tell people? And he says, remember that you're going to die, and it's that idea, memento mori, remember death, remember that you're going to die. And it goes, and just a spin off on another idea, but Mr. Rogers talked about this Jewish principle called tikkun olam, which is to the restoration of the world. And I believe that's the message of the Bible. The entirety of the Bible is this world that God made that was good, and then it became broken, and so it's our job as the ambassadors of Christ to repair it. So we are here to tikkun olam, to repair the world, and we have to remember that we ourselves individually have a finite amount of time in which we can repair our peace. And so I think that if you were to celebrate Halloween in that fashion, right? If you were to celebrate Halloween, you could, and I think that getting into the fun side of it with like witches and ghosts and things like that's a fun aspect of it. I don't feel like um, if you were to get into the commercialization of witches and like the Looney Tunes version of witches, I don't think that you're doing anything wrong. I don't think you're doing anything bad. I think if your conscience is clean doing it, then you should just stick with it. Be fine with it. Don't let other people talk you out of it. Um, but I think that if you are having a hard time saying how can I, like, I want to celebrate Halloween, I just don't know how I can celebrate Halloween as a Christian. Um, I say if it's just eating away at your conscience too much, then just don't do it. If you haven't celebrated Halloween in years and you just don't think it's an important holiday to you, then don't celebrate in it. I know that for my family, we've kind of grown, and it makes me sad actually that we've kind of grown further away from Halloween. It's not as big of a holiday as it was. A lot of times, what we end up doing is just kind of carving pumpkins and watching Halloween movies. Like we watch Hocus Pocus and we watch things like that. But we really don't do anything for Halloween as much. We don't dress up as much. We don't go out as much. We used to go out uh, like the haunted houses and stuff like that, and I love doing that kind of stuff. Um, but we just don't do it as much anymore. And so I know that there are some Christian family households that don't celebrate Halloween, and they haven't in a while, and so it's not a really big deal if they do or don't celebrate it. And so it's like if you're that person, then don't worry about it. But if you're that person who's like, you miss Halloween, you miss celebrating Halloween, and you want to celebrate Halloween, but you don't know how to do it as a Christian, I think that doing it that way, where you're making it about remembering the fact that you're going to die, then you could find ways to celebrate it. You can decorate. I think you should feel free to decorate in ghosts and spirits and tombstones and things like that, because you're pointing to the fact that people are going to die, and these are images that people associate with death, is ghosts and tombstones and spider webs and spiders and skeletons, that sort of thing. But this is why I want to move into this. The real reason why I started this whole spontaneous podcast episode was because of this. So I'm looking for things to read for my other podcast, Story Suite. I haven't done a new one in a long time. The last one I did was last Halloween, and I did a reading of The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. You can go check that out. It's on all platforms. That really helps me out, even financially, because when you listen to it, it kicks back a little bit with advertisement and gives a little bit to me. So go check that out. It's called Story Suite, Suite. And I have other ones where I read kind of American tall tales and stuff like that. That was what I wanted that podcast to be, and then it turned into Story Suite because I just really love like Jim Henson's the storyteller, and so I really want a part of me really wants to keep that legacy of storytelling going, and so that's why I do that. But so I was trying to find something to read for Halloween kind of season, and I'm looking through all the public domain things, and I ran across this book, and it's like a devotional book for Halloween, specifically for Halloween. And it was written by a Catholic bishop, and let me find it here. I got so many tabs open for writing. So it's called Halloween, and it's a romance, like a romance poem, but it's Halloween, a romance. So and the book is titled Halloween, a romance with lays meditative and devotional by the author of Christian ballads. So it's two works in one, and this is published in 1845. And so it has this. It is a poem called Halloween, and it was written. The poem was written by a Catholic bishop, and then the rest of it is called lays, and it's like it's just a collection of Christian psalms and ballads and things like that deal with death, and so it's just kind of this collection. I don't want to read Halloween just yet because it's a really, really long poem, and I want to save. I'm thinking about saving that for my Story Suite podcast. But what I do have here is a note that I want to read from the publisher. I believe this is from the publisher. But here it goes. Here's a note. And this is what I want to read this because I want to give Christians a frame of mind that they can approach Halloween, right? So here it is. All Saints' Day, as all good Christians should remember, is the first day of November. Halloween is a sweet Scotticism for its vigil, familiar to the reader of Burns, but which I have grudged to the degrading use which has been made of it by that unhappy bard. Instead of the profane rites of which it has been desecrated, he's talking about like the pagan kind of rituals and everything like that. I have supposed it observed in Christian homes by fireside tales and recollections of the departed and conversations about the state of intermediate repose. Such would be a less unfitting way of preparing for a festival, in which the church commemorates her saints and martyrs and all of the dead in Christ as part of her Holy Communion, expecting with her the resurrection of the body and the final reward of life everlasting. This festival is counterpart of Easter, telling of death, as Easter does of resurrection. And as God has given to the latter the reviving blossom and the sweet springtime, so he has set the former in the autumn and strewn the sere leaves in our path to the church, as it's becoming a symbol. And thus the true Catholic always finds himself living in harmony with nature, for the author of nature is the author of his holy religion. He has a joy which the world knows not in beholding all the works of God. They have a place in that system of the universe of which the Catholic Church is a part. A Niagara, a Mont Blanc possess for him a ritual character as really as the Te Deum, in which he sings, "All the earth doth worship thee, the Father everlasting." And so that's the note. And there's a little bit more here about like different things, but I just wanted to read that big thing, because what it's saying a few things here, is that he considers the pagan rituals and all that a desecration of the day, the Halloween season, and I think that's the contest that a lot of Christians have, is that how do we not get involved in the pagan traditions? So I think what you can do with Halloween is what he's talking about, having fireside tales and recollections of people who have passed away, the departed, and having conversations about what we think happens. He talks about an intermediate repose, so the intermediate state. If you believe in that, if you believe in the intermediate state, then I think that's what you should have conversations about. You have it about people who have died, and you have conversations about an intermediate state. And he's saying that these things would be less unfitting to prepare for the festival of the All Saints' Day, which is an actual Christian holiday, or a Catholic's holiday. And I don't want to get into that argument, but that's what this author is, the author who published it, the notes he's saying. And he's saying, he actually states that Halloween, he feels, is a counterpart to Easter, because where Easter is talking about resurrection and life, that Halloween is a time of death, and it's a time of sowing, right? He doesn't say that, but that's kind of where I'm going, is that Halloween is the time of sowing. Actually, let me find that verse. I think it's 1 Corinthians, sowing in death. I think it's in Corinthians. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15. 1 Corinthians 15. So let me I'll read the ESV. I just like the ESV. It's my preferred version. So here it goes. So this is 1 Corinthians 15, starting in verse 35. It says, "But someone will ask, how are the dead raised? What kind of body do they come? You foolish person, what you sow does not come to life unless it dies. And what you sow is not the body that is to be, but a bare kernel, perhaps of wheat or some other grain. But God gives it a body as he has chosen, and to each kind of seed its own body. For not all flesh is the same, but there is one kind of human, another for animals, another for birds, another for fish. There are heavenly bodies and earthly bodies, but the glory of the heavenly is one of a kind, and the glory of the earthly is another. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, another glory of the stars, and for stars differ from the stars and glory. So," and this is verse 42, "so is it with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown is perishable, and what is raised is imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, and it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, is raised a spiritual body. For there is a natural, there is also a spiritual. Thus it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam became a living spirit. But it is not the spirit spiritual that is first, but the natural and then the spiritual. The first man was from the earth, a man of the dust. The second man is from heaven. And was the man of dust, so also are those who are of the dust. And as the man of heaven, so also are those who are of heaven. Just as we have borne the image of man of dust, we shall also bear the image of man of heaven. It's talking about resurrection, that if we are born in Christ, if we are born in the spiritual, then we're going to be raised in the spiritual. But if we're born of dust, if we're born of the earth, then we're going to go back to the earth. We're going to be born of dust. But in that passage, it talks about what is sown in corruption. He just means a corruptible body that's going to decay. It will be raised in glory. So that's a way that you could look at Halloween, and you could tell the stories of those who have passed, and talk about death with your family. It would be a really great time to do that. To talk to them about, to actually, how many families sit down and talk to their families about death and really ponder it and really think about that memento mori? Let us sit down and let us talk about death and really ponder it as what it is. And it can be that halfway mark for you that says, hey, this is the time of Halloween. This is the time where we reflect on death. And then it leads us into the resurrection, and the resurrection of Christ, and what the resurrection is supposed to be about, which is resurrection from the dead, resurrection into eternal life. And so I think if Christians were to, instead of Christians saying you should never celebrate Halloween, what they should be saying is, how can we redeem Halloween back for Christianity? And the thing is you don't have to, because it was done a long time ago. I know a lot of people, a lot of Protestants are iffy about the Catholic Church, but you need to get over that, because there's a lot of tradition and there's a lot of liturgy that I think that we miss out on as Christians, because we're too proud to do it, and we don't even, so there's this great TV show. I actually think that it's a great faith-based TV show. A lot of people will not think of it that way. It's a horror show. It's about vampires and stuff. But I think that the real meaning behind that show, and the show is shoot, I just forgot what it's called. It's a great show though. Definitely should watch it. Midnight Mass. It's a great show, and the whole time that the show goes on, everyone questions death, and they're afraid of death. They're afraid of dying, and they talk about death and religion and faith the entire show. And I think it's a good warning, and I think it's a good dialogue. And so I think that if Christians were to just look back at the traditions of old, and be vigilant about that too. You want to be vigilant about anything that you share with your family, but if they were to look at that and say that, Halloween season for my family is going to be a time when we reflect on death, and reflect on the fact that our natural bodies are going to perish, and it'll be laid to the ground, and it will decay. But we don't have to fear that, because in the Easter time, we have our story of resurrection and the hope of resurrection after death, because death is the final enemy that is to be defeated. And so, should Christians celebrate Halloween? I think so. I think absolutely. But I think we need to stop thinking about Halloween in and all of its pagan stuff. As Christians, I definitely don't think that we should harp on people who do continue to do the, dress up, go get candy, watch horror movies, talk about vampires, witches, and stuff like that. Half the people that do that stuff don't believe that that's actual stuff that goes on. They don't care about it. It's Christians that are the ones who really care about it. And so I think that if we as Christians care more about the fact that we're communicating death and that death is a reality and that death can happen and really have that open conversation, I think we could win a lot of souls. So as I close, I do want to read one poem from this book. It's a great book. Definitely check it out. You can just go on. I'm on like Gutenberg.org, but I think you can go on Goodreads and read it. But the book is called, again, I said it before, but it's called Halloween: A Romance with Lays, Meditative and Devotional. Again, it was printed in 1845, and it's just like this book of poems and psalms, and it focuses on death. And yeah, so I want to read this one poem. It's called "Give Me the Hour." Give me the hour of day's decline to muse upon my own, to call from earth each wish of mine, and dream of heaven alone. And let nor voice nor foot intrude upon my meditative mood. As stretched in lonely cell or bower, I feel the shades that o'er the lay come lengthening till they fall on me and veil my pensive hour. For I've loved the eventide, while yet I knew not why. But now, since early friends have died, 'tis dear as memory. It minds me of their quiet sleep, 'neath many a grassy mound or deep. The floods of far-off seas below, it tells me how my years still on, how strong and lovely ones have gone, and how we all must go. My name shall nor sorry. My name shall ne'er be writ with those whose friendship's death can end. No grave upon my love can close, no tomb take all my friend. Not only in communion blessed, I share their beatific rest. I share their beatific rest. But oft to even mine earthly kin, their death seems but a signet set to love whose converse paths yet all life with worldly men. To think of names once daily heard, that now are read in stone, and know each gesture, look, and word, familiar smile and tone, as all would be, could they but still give hand and heart with thine to trill. This is a pure, though sad delight, and such is mine at that sweet hour, when wakes the star and dies the flower, as sunset turns to night. Thus ye come back, my own dear dead, from paradise's door, to fill with feelings hallowed the world ye blessed before. When we were mates, ye drew with mine life's pictured way in equal line, nor dreamed we ye were near its goal, where hand in hand we thought to be. We've left lonely race to me. Ah, shall I run the whole? So, I want to encourage you as a Christian, as a fellow believer. I want to encourage you to, instead of trying to berate people into not celebrating a holiday that they hold dear, to find a way that you can celebrate with them in a way that is true to your faith and that is true to the teaching of Christ. Because that is what the world needs, is for us to be in the same location as they are, but to talk a different language. Right? While they're talking about blood and guts and gore, we're talking about names that are remembered and people that we miss that are dead. But we know something that the other people don't, or at least we believe something that the other people don't, is that in Christ we will see them again. And that's the hope of Halloween. The hope of Halloween is that though they die, though they are sown, though they are buried, that at Easter time we can celebrate their resurrection, their coming resurrection. But without Halloween, you can't have Easter. Without death, you can't have resurrection. All right, guys. Well, I know this has been a heavy episode, but I think Halloween should be a heavy time of season, but it should also be fun. And I think that's the mixture. You have to find that mixture to where you can celebrate these things with other people. Guys, I hope to do more stuff like this. Again, I want mattnews.biz to transition into this how we can live life as Christians better. How we can live life as like, what does it mean to live a Christian lifestyle? To be wholly consumed with our love and passion for Jesus Christ. And I think that a lot of American evangelical churches are doing it wrong. I think that a lot of American churches are in general are doing it wrong, because I think they're too focused about themselves rather than being focused about the community, and rather than being focused about ministering to people who are in lowly places. And so, guys, I hope you join me again. The next episode, I have no clue what it's going to be about. It'll probably be just like this one, just some random thought that I have, and just hopefully I want to start sharing kind of news stories and how like I would respond to that, and I hope that my response is a Christian response. That's another idea that's been going around my head for a while, which is just like, sometimes I think that especially when you're going around on Christian TikTok, it's like we all want to be experts. We all it's not bad for everybody to have an opinion, but I think that the fact of the matter is that everybody mistakes having an opinion as being an expert in what they're saying. Like, what they're saying is true. And I think what we need to get to grasp is that what we're saying is an exploration of ideas. And I think that's a better way to put it, because I could be wrong today but be right later on down the road, and that's an exploration of ideas. And I think that's one of the things that if you cut off traditions like Halloween, and you cut off celebrations like Halloween, you cut off the exchanging of ideas. And I think that's dangerous for Christians to do. It isolates us from the world, not in a good way. So I love you guys again. I hope you catch up with me on the next episode as we explore more Matt News. See you guys.